A very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. I am Jamie and this is, of course, the Chat Wrap on Relax Radio. How are you doing? How is your day going so far? I just want to say a big thank you going out to every single one of you that have been a part of the show so far. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the journey. And if you're wondering what Relax Radio is, well, then we are a community based interactive radio. And the reason we're here is to make sure that you are informed and inspired. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relaxed Radio. And if you have something that you want to share with us, if you know, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Now, me during my show, we talk about real world events, we talk about the entertainment industry. We have Nick who talks about current affairs, politics. We have Sarah, who talks about all things interesting. So, if there's anything that you want to chime in, if there's anything that you want to add to the conversations, go ahead and do that by leaving a comment down below. Let me know how your day is going so far because I would absolutely love to hear from you. Now, we've been talking about a lot of different things. We spoke about the Afghanistan crisis, more particularly about the refugee crisis that has been brought about due to the whole Afghanistan Taliban take over. Now that we spoke about a few minutes back, I will get into it in a few minutes actually. But before that, I do want to talk to you about something that is equally interesting, and that's with regards to toxic work culture. Okay, it's definitely something that we need to talk about, especially because I feel like okay, after COVID, I feel like it's something that a lot of us are going through right now, this toxic work culture, but most of us don't even realize that we are in it. Okay, so I want to talk about signs of a toxic work culture, and if you are stuck in one of these situations, what you can do to get rid of it or to kind of eliminate the situation. Okay, so these are basically the red flags that you need to look out for, and this I'm going to also tell you how you can deal with those situations. Okay, now see, I feel like workplace culture in general has a major impact on how you get your work done. Okay, how you feel, what your work drive, your passion, everything is driven by the workplace culture. Okay, in fact, I just read this amazing article that actually gave us an insight into this whole situation. And this article said that, in fact, 3 out of the 10 people report that their workplace culture makes them irritable at home. Okay, so basically, what this means is that a toxic workplace environment can also have measurable impacts on your productivity. Okay, because see, if you are, just think about it, if you've been in a workplace that is not so positive, that has a lot of negativity, then you know that it's so much harder to be productive because there's not proper communication that takes place. You know, you need to try to defend yourself half the time, and there's very little productivity that can be in place because of the communication flaws, because of, you know, other fundamental flaws that happen in this toxic workplace culture. So I think at the end of the day, it's so important to kind of build a healthy workplace culture. If you want employees, if you want yourself to be as productive, and you know, if you want to get as much work done as possible, there is a lot that has to do with the workplace culture. So let's talk about that for a second. What are a few characteristics of a toxic work environment? Now, I want you to do something for me. Okay, I want you to talk, at least I want you to apply these scenarios into your workplace. Okay, your office, your corporate job, or your job in general. What I want you to do is, I'm going to give you a few characteristics of a toxic workplace environment. What you need to do is try to apply these to your workplace environment and ask yourself, do I work in a toxic workplace? Is there a very toxic culture in the place I work? And how you can kind of get into that conclusion is if you apply these signs to your office and see if these are true in your case. Okay, so is your workplace really toxic? This is one of those situations when it's smart to trust your gut, I think, and the fact that you're doubtful about the health of your company's culture says that there is a lot of a room for improvement. Okay. And okay, here are also a few telltale signs that your work environment leaves a lot to be desired. Now, the first thing is if there is little to no enthusiasm. Okay, if you look around at your colleagues, does everyone face seem like they just found out some really, really bad news? Okay, so bad attitudes create a self fulfilling prophecy. Okay, all that negativity is a result of the culture at your workplace, but it also kind of fuels this overall gloomy, depressing, terrible vibe in the office. Okay, and worse, it kind of hinders everybody's ability to get things done. So the first things first, if you have a little to no enthusiasm, not just you, but all of your work colleagues also have very little enthusiasm in your workplace, that is a telltale sign of a very toxic workplace environment. The other thing, if there is a pervasive fear of failure, then that also shows that there is something wrong. That is also a red flag as to your workplace culture. Obviously, nobody wants to screw up at work. Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to mess up. But making a mistake on the job, if it is your biggest workplace fear, but there's a big difference between hoping to avoid a brief facepalm moment and feeling paralyzed by a threatening environment that punishes perceived failure. See, that's a huge difference. Nobody wants to make mistakes, but mistakes do happen sometimes. And if you are paralyzed with fear about making a mistake at your workplace, that also is yet another indicator of a toxic workplace. I do have a lot more to share with you, so make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio right now, though we're going to be heading off into a little break. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. Hello again and welcome back to the show. I am Jamie and this is of course the Chat Trap on Relax Radio, the show where we trap you with the best of conversation. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio as we talk about a lot of interesting things. From entertainment news to real world scenarios, we talk about different things. And we definitely want to hear your thoughts and perspectives. So go ahead, share it with me by calling me on 07852473473 or by leaving a comment down below if you're listening to us on our social media platforms. Now, we've been talking about the signs of a toxic workplace culture, and I told you how the first two red flags is if there's a little to no enthusiasm in your workplace, as in, if you look at your colleagues, if you look at yourself, and if you all are always, looking depressed, and if you are always seem to be very, very negative and gloomy, that essentially is an indicator that your workplace can be kind of toxic. Now, the other thing is this pervasive fear of failure. I told you how obviously nobody wants to make a mistake at work. Nobody wants to screw up, right? But if you constantly live in this paralyzing fear of getting something wrong or failing, well, then that essentially again is another indicator that your workplace could be toxic. Now, the other thing is if there's a constant dysfunction, and if there's constantly this state of confusion, if nobody is clear on their roles of their responsibilities, if there's crossed wires are common, and if people are always feeling left out of the loop, then there basically is this sense of dysfunction and confusion in your workplace. If team members can barely tell which way is up, and if they know if they barely know what to do, well, then that essentially is a toxic workplace. Because toxic workplaces, at the end of the day, are breeding grounds for dysfunction and confusion. Okay, this is because these negative environments are so often accompanied by a lack of trust. It's accompanied by ineffective communication, by power struggles, and those issues kind of make it all the more challenging for team members to collaborate. It's so much harder to work when there's so many other issues that are going on. Okay, so meetings and projects and relationships frequently run off the trails because of this constant dysfunction and confusion. Okay, that's yet another indicator of a toxic workplace culture. Now, if there's also a high employee turnover, okay, if there's a revolving door of employees and it seems like you can't keep anybody around for the long haul, you're never sure what empty desks or new faces you'll see in the office tomorrow. Well, and that again is yet another indicator or a red flag as to the toxic culture of your workplace. If throngs of people are running and there's a strong indicator that the culture is driving employees away, that essentially is shows that there's a negative culture experience. Okay. The other thing is if there's a lot of never-ending gossip and drama, that is genuinely one thing that I cannot stand in a workplace. Okay. A little bit of office hearsay is very normal. A little bit of office drama is very, very ordinary. Most people are guilty of paying attention to the rumor mill in one way or another. It's when this gossip is taken to an extreme that toxic workplaces become apparent. Okay, so if your average day at work feels like you're starring on a reality TV show, well, then you've reached a whole new level of drama. Okay, so if nobody openly communicates and instead there's like whispers and side eye glances and passive aggressive remarks, well, then that essentially is also a toxic workplace culture. Okay, it might seem harmless, but toxic workplace bullying is correlated to psychological burnout, anxiety, and depression. So those are definitely certain things that can point out and show you, look, your workplace is actually quite toxic. Where you're working it's actually, these are all the red flags that indicate that you are working for a toxic workplace environment. Now, let's talk about how to deal with these toxic workplace cultures. You recognized your work environment in one or several of the indicators that I spoke of. Now what? Okay, so I think you need to put in strategies to see if you can improve things at work. And I think the first thing that you need to do is to find your allies. Okay, a venomous work environment means that you probably won't get along with everybody you work with. But building like a support system of sorts, Okay, a friendly, like-minded colleagues can actually help you to boost your spirits, and it can help you feel less isolated. So, we've been talking about red flags in your workplace. I've been telling you how these are indicators that kind of portrays that your workplace is toxic. And the first thing, if you kind of correlate these with your office or with your job, well, then the first thing that you need to do to kind of amend the situation is to find your allies. Focus on what you can control. Okay, the common advice of stay positive, as cliche as it is, and I know that it can seem very condescending at times, but when you're stuck in a work environment that's kind of sabotaging your happiness, rather than pasting on like a fake smile and fake positivity and trying to keep your chin up at all times, you need to ask yourself this question: do I have any control over the situation? So if you're not in a leadership position and you're still stuck in a toxic workplace, you probably have limited power. But stay focused on the decisions and reactions that you have a say in. And I think that essentially is going to avoid expanding energy and frustration on situations that aren't worth your sweat. Document everything, muster your courage, and provide honest feedback. This is definitely certain things that you need to do if you're stuck in a toxic workplace culture. Right now, though, I'm going to be heading off into a little break. When I come back, though, we have so much more to discuss. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you say, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, you had one to forget.
That's it. Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I dust myself down,